Today we are going to start our cognitive processes, or we can say cognitive functions. So what is cognitive in psychology? So cognitive is related to your thinking functions, it is related to your attention, your aptitude, your intelligence, your perception. So all these functions are called as your cognitive functions or cognitive processes. So mainly the cognitive things, it means whenever we are using our mental activities, whenever we are using our brain to do any activities, so all that things will be covered under this cognitive processes. So from all this, today we are going to start attention. So here we have the attention. So you can see in this image, what is attention? Attention, that means concentrating on something, any objects, any event, any stimuli, we are concentrating. At the same time, the other surrounding things, whatever present in environment, that we are excluding. So for an example, on table, 2 books are there and 1 water bottle is there. So if I am focusing on my water bottle, at the same time from that environment, from that table, I am excluding my attention or my concentration from other that 2 books. So that is called as our attention. Attention is exclusion of other objects compared to our one stimuli which we are going to attend or on which we are going to focus on. So that is the conscious concentration of human being's mind on something, any object, any event or any stimuli. So that is called as your attention. Let's understand this attention further by this definition of attention. So here we have the definition of attention. Let's see this. The attention is the concentration of consciousness. So as we have discussed in our introduction, concentration of consciousness, that means my conscious mind, I am attending, I am focusing or I am concentrating on something upon the object rather than upon another. That means 2 objects or more than 2 objects might be there in the environment, external environment, but right now the individual is going to focus on only one object at a time. So all the concentration will be on the one single object at a time. So that is called as your attention. So attention is your concentration of consciousness upon one object excluding the other object. So that is called as your attention. So this definition of attention was given by Dumville in 1938. After definition of attention, let's see further. Okay, so we can understand this image also for this attention. So obviously we are attending this one individual only at a time. For an example, I am the person who is attending something, or I am giving my attention, or I am focusing my attention on someone or something. So you can see in this image, so many individuals are there, but this individual is different. So I am giving my attention to him. He might be doing any activities, or he might have wear something odd clothes or dressing like that. So I am excluding from this environment all the other individuals. At the same time, I am focusing on only one individual. So that is called as our attention. Concentration of consciousness on particular object, person, event or a situation. At the same time, we are excluding the other things which are present in the same environment. So that is our attention. Let's see further. Next we have the types of attention. So now if we talk about the attention, we have 2 types of attention. The first one is your voluntary attention and the second one is your involuntary attention. So the other name of this voluntary attention is called as volitional. That means whatever we are doing by our own desires or by our own choices. So that is called as your voluntary attentions. That means our desires will be involved in that. We are doing by our own choices. No one is making force us to do that. So that is our voluntary attention. At the same time, the next type of attention is your involuntary, or we can say non-volitional attention. Involuntary attention, that means something is forcing us to attend that specific object or a situation. So that is called as your involuntary attention. Personally we don't have any choices, or personally we don't have any reasons, that we don't have any desires to focus on something, but any situations or any circumstances are forcing us to focus on that particular thing. So that is called as your involuntary, or we can say the non-volitional attention. So here in this voluntary attention also we have two types. The first one is your implicit volition and the second one is your explicit volition. At the same time, in involuntary also we have two types. That is, the first one is your enforced non-volitional or involuntary we can say, and the another one is your spontaneous non-volitional attention, or you can say spontaneous involuntary attention. So we'll understand those types in detail one by one. So let's start with our voluntary attention. So as we have seen in our voluntary attention, we have two types. Before that, let's understand what is voluntary attention. So you can read here, the voluntary attention demands a conscious effort on our part. That means I have told you that our own choices, our own desires, our own wishes we are implementing to focus on something. So here this voluntary attention, that means demands a conscious effort on our own part, our part. That means we are doing it by our own self to focus on something. So that is your voluntary attention. So let's see the example of this voluntary attention. You can see here the teacher might have given the assignment to this particular student to complete one mathematical solution. So he is doing this mathematical solution because teacher has told that he or she will punish if this individual or this student is not going to solve this mathematical attention. So this is the voluntary attention which we are doing by our own side. We are doing on our own part, that we wish that we won't be getting this punishment from our teacher. So that's why we are trying to focus, that's why we are trying to give our attention in solving this mathematics solution. So that is called as your voluntary attention. We are willingly, our will is working in that, and we are willingly focusing on something from our part. So that is called as your voluntary attention. So as we have seen, two types are there in this voluntary attention. Let's see that two types. The first one is your implicit volitional attention. So what is your implicit volitional attention? See, a single act of will is responsible for arousing attention. That means single act, one motive we have, single act of will is responsible. That means one will we have, and to implement that will or to focus on that particular one thing, we are doing any activity. So that is your implicit or volitional attention we can say. So here you have seen the teacher has been given this homework to this individual, as we have seen in our previous example. So teacher has given this homework, now student has to complete this homework. So that is called as your implicit volitional attention. Only one will is not to get punishment from the teacher. So that is, to get rid of this punishment, the student is going to complete this assignment by their own wish. So only one act and one wish will be there. So that is called as your implicit volitional attention. At the same time, the another type of volitional or voluntary attention is your explicit volitional attention. What is explicit volitional attention? That means attention is obtained by repeated act of will. That means in that only one act we were doing to fulfilling our will, but here repeatedly we are doing something, repeatedly we are acting to fulfill our will. So that is called as your repeated act of will for this explicit volitional attention. So let's see the example and further things in this explicit volitional attention. That is, one has to struggle hard for keeping oneself attentive. It requires a strong motive for accomplishment of the task. For an example, if I want to accomplish my any one task, my motives should be strong enough, my desire should be strong enough, and for all that desire, to achieve all that goals or my desires, I am going to do hard working or repeated work I am going to do, so that I can achieve whatever desires or whatever will I have. So to attain my will, repeatedly I am acting something, I am doing something. So that is called as your explicit volitional attention. The example of this explicit volitional attention is, you can see in this image. In first implicit volition attention, we were having only one will, and to fulfill that will, only one act we were doing. For an example, solving the doing the assignment. So that was our one act. But here in explicit, too many repeated acts we are doing. So for an example, this girl wants to score a good marks in her examination, or she wants to pass in her examination. So repeatedly, her all the activities are making her aware about her examination, and she is more and more focusing on that. So for that, repeatedly she is reading. So that is called as your explicit volition attention. So here we have these two types in your voluntary attention. So that is your implicit volitional attention or voluntary attention, we can say, and the second one is your explicit volitional attention, or you can say explicit involuntary attention. The another type of attention, the main one, that is your involuntary attention, or we can say non-volitional attention. We are not doing by our own choices. Something or someone is making us to do that. Someone is forcing, something is forcing us to act like that. So that is called as your involuntary attention. So this involuntary attention, let's see. This type of attention is aroused without the play of will or without making a conscious effort on our part. So as we have seen, involuntary attention, our part, concentration from our part we were giving. But here in involuntary attention, we are not working actively, but something is making us to focus on that particular stimuli in the environment. So that is called as your involuntary attention. That means without play of will, we don't have any will that I want to achieve this or I want to do this. We don't have any will or we don't have any desires. Without making a conscious effort, consciously or actively from our side, we are not focusing on that particular thing. So that is called as your involuntary attention. This involuntary attention is also having the two types. Let's see that. Before that, the example of involuntary attention we have. See, any loud voices, any loud noise. If you are working in any situation, if you are doing any other activities in your bedroom, suddenly if you will hear some loud voices, your attention will go there. You are going to concentrate there. You don't want to do this, but still unconsciously you will try to listen that voice, that what that voice is, or who is screaming from the far distance. So that will be our activity. Consciously we are not focusing on our side, but something is making us to focus on that area. So that is, so these two examples here we have taken, that loud voices or any bright lights. Sometimes there will be suddenly some bright lights will be there. Though we don't want to focus on that area, though we don't have any will or any goals to focus on that area, but then also our attention will go there. Consciously not, but it will be unconsciously. So that is called as your involuntary, or we can say non-volitional attention. So two types of non-volitional or involuntary attention we have. That is, the first one, enforced. Something is forcing us to do. Enforced non-volitional attention. Let's see. Non-volitional attention aroused by the instincts. That means a particular channel of behavior in particular situation when the human being are exhibiting. So that is called as some instinct. In a manner what they are working. So that is instinct. Is called enforced non-volitional attention. Our natural response to any stimuli. For an example, we are listening any loud voices, and our curiosity is making us to concentrate on that particular thing, because we are going to be curious that what that noise is, what that who is screaming over there. So that voices are making us to focus over their area. So that is called as your enforced non-volitional attention. Our curiosity is leading us to focus on that particular thing. So that is your enforced non-volitional attention. At the same time, The another type of non-volitional attention is your spontaneous non-volitional attention. Spontaneous, that means suddenly we are attending something, we are focusing on something. So that is your spontaneous non-volitional attention. What is that? Non-volitional attention aroused by sentiments. That means sentiments in the sense of your emotions or feelings, any sad or nostalgic feelings. So that is called as your sentiments, is called spontaneous non-volitional attention. For an example, any emotions are there which are making us to focus on that particular area or on that particular individual. For an example, I am doing my work in my classroom and suddenly one student will start crying, so my attention will go there. Though I don't have any personal desire to focus on that area, or I don't have any will or motive to focus on that area, but that sentiments will lead me to focus on that particular individual. So that is called as your spontaneous non-volitional attention. Spontaneously, with reason of some sentiments, we are focusing on something. So that is your another type of non-volitional attention, that is your spontaneous attention. So that is. So these are the types of your attention, main two types, voluntary and non-voluntary, or we can say non-volition. In voluntary attention, our part is involved. In non-voluntary attention, our part is not involved. So that is. After the types, the another thing we have in our attention, that is our determinants of attention. Determinants of attention, or we can say methods of arousing attention. What all the things, what all the methods or what all the factors are there which will activate or which will arouse one's attention. So that is the methods of arousing attention. For an example, I want to achieve someone's attention, what things I can do? So that is your methods, you can say, or any factors and conditions favorable for capturing attention. If I want to capture someone's attention, what specific things I can do? So that is. So let's see these methods, or we can say the factors which are responsible for arousing conditions. So as we have seen in our types, the voluntary and non-voluntary attention, that means in voluntary our part is not active, our part is involved, in involuntary our part is not involved. So same like that, the factors are here, the external factors and the internal factors. So the external factors, that means the factors outside the environment, the objective factors which we can observe, which is encouraging our attention. So that is called as your external factors. At the same time, the internal factors, that means inside the human being's body, what all are the factors which are making them to give their focus on something, some individual or some event or some circumstances. So that is called as your internal factors. So external factors will be objective, what we observe outside the environment. At the same time, the internal factors will be subjective, that means what we feel, what are all are the things which leads us to focus on something. So that is totally a subjective, what we are telling. So that is your internal factors. So this is our part factor, this is not our part factors. So let's see these external factors one by one. So very common one, the first is your nature of stimulus. That means what stimulus we are observing or we are attending or we are focusing on, what is the nature of that stimulus. So based on that our attention it is going to lead. So for an example, the nature of stimulus, sometimes the very pleasant things or very unpleasant things. So from both the things we are going to give our attention to the pleasant one. So that is the nature of stimulus. For an example, the visual stimulus will be easily attainable. So that is, so visualization or any images will draw our attention towards them. So that is the nature of stimulus. In vision or images also, when there is some when there is a picture of any beautiful woman or beautiful or handsome man, at that time our attention will go suddenly over there. Sometimes when the colors are there, we are going to give our attention quickly on that object or on that person. So that is the nature of stimuli. The next external factor is intensity of stimulus. Intensity, that means the activity of that stimulus, how intense it is. So that is intensity of stimulus. So as we know, this intensity will be measured in the terms of low intensity, mild, moderate or severe intensity. So whenever this intensity is high, the energy in that particular stimuli, the moving energy is high, at that time our attention easily will go towards that particular event or situation or any object. So that is the intensity. Compared to low intensity stimuli, the high intensity stimuli are going to achieve our attention very quickly. So that is the intensity. After that, next external factors we have, that is size of stimulus. So if we talk about the sizes, different types of sizes we have, the small size, the medium size, the large size. So if we compare all the sizes, the large things or large stimuli are going to be very quickly are going to achieve our attention. So that is the size of stimulus. At the same time, if the large background is there and very small thing is drawn over there, then that small thing is also going to achieve our attention very quickly. So that is the sizes of stimuli. Based on the background, at the same time based on the objects. If objects are too large in the size, they are easily going to achieve our attention. So that is the next external factors are contrast, change and novelty. So from the routine, if something varies in the nature, then that is going to achieve our attention very quickly. Something contrast. For an example, two opposite colors are there, they are going to achieve our attention very quickly. Any change in things from the natural one. For an example, daily you are listening this tick of watch in your bedroom, that watch is clicking, the tick sound you are able to hear. So that is the normal thing. You don't concentrate on that thing actively, but when that is going to be stopped, one day if that clock is going to be stopped and that clicking voice will be stopped, at that time easily your attention will go over there. So that is called as your change in the attention. So that is called as change in the stimuli. When there will be the sudden change in any stimuli will be there, at that time the easily attention will go over there. At the same time, the novelty, something new. For an example, daily we are coming in our school, but when the new teacher will visit our classroom, our attention will go over there. So new teacher, new clothes or anything which is new to us, our attention will quickly go towards that new thing. So that is. After that, the another external factor we have, that is location of stimulus. Location in the sense of when we are visualizing something, the nearer object, we are going to focus more attention over that. So that location also matters while we are attending something. So that is the location of stimulus. Then we have the repetition of stimulus. That means something which is repeating, at that time our attention will quickly go over that. For an example, one paragraph is written over there, and if there is a misspelling, spelling mistake is there. So one word is misspelled over there. Again, if that word is going to be misspelled in the further lines, at that time our attention will quickly go over that instead of only one misspelled things. So that is the repetition of stimuli. When there will be the repetition, quickly our attention will go there. The next external factor is your movement of stimulus. Movement in the sense of when the stimuli are moving, when there is the motion in that particular stimuli, our attention will quickly go over there instead or in comparison with the steady stimuli. So that is, and after that, definite form of the object. Definite form of the object in the sense of clearly stated or clearly defined things will have or will catch our attention very quickly. For an example, on blackboard one image has been drawn which has a clear lining or curves it has, the definite form it has. So at that time our attention will go quickly over that. At the same time, if on the table one thing is placed which is same with that color of the tablecloth, so that is not going to catch our attention very quickly because we are not able to differentiate that. So that is the definite form of the object. When there is a definite linings over there on that particular object, at that time we will be able to give our attention very quickly on that stimuli. So these all are the external factors we can say for our attention, or by these methods we can achieve the attention of something. So that is our external factors. Next we are going to see our internal factors. That means inside the human being, inside ourselves, what are all are the factors which are making us to focusing on something. So that is our internal factors. The first and very most important one is your interest and attention. So for an example, in what activities or in what event or object I am more interested, my attention will go quickly over there. For an example, I am passing from the road and my interest is in the cricket compared to that basketball, and both the games are there being played by the childrens. I am going to give my attention towards the cricket game because I am interested in that cricket game. So that is, so interest also matters of the human being when they are focusing on something. So that is. The next is your motives. That means our urges or our desires, what we need based on our need, what is our motives, what we want to achieve in our life. So that is, so all the motives, for an example, your basic motives, that is your hunger or your thirst. So these all the motives are going to achieve our attention. For an example, if I am too much hungry, though there is not a very tasty plates or tasty foods are there in that area, I am going to have it because right now that is my motive to pay attention over there because I am hungry. So anything will be allowed for me to eat. So that is my motives. Then another internal factor is your mental setup. Our mind is set for something, for doing any activities. So based on the mental setup, our brain, what they need or what they want to achieve, based on that our attention will quickly go over there. So that is. Then after, next we have the past experiences. So for an example, if we were having any past experiences in our life, based on our past experiences, we are going to focus on the present situations. Quickly we are going to focus on that present situations if the event has been already occurred in past life of our, so that is going to catch our attention very quickly. So that is your past experience. At the same time, emotions. If emotionally we are attached to something, any events or any sentiments or anything, so that is going to draw our attention very quickly. The habit, if we want to make habit of something good things or something bad things, at that time all the habits are going to achieve our attention. Then aim, that means our achievement or our goal, what we want to achieve. So if my aim is to get a good rank in the final exam, then my attention will be on my studies only. So that is. Then meaning. For an example, the one thing which is clearly stated or a meaningful, that is going to catch our attention very quickly compared to the meaningless things. Then at last, disposition and temperament. So disposition and temperament, it means in our scholastic achievements, if disposition, social disposition is there or temperament is there, we are going to give the more attention in that particular area. So that is all about your internal factors of your attention. So here we have seen the internal factors as well as the external factors, or we can say the methods or determinants of the attention. After that, next thing we have, that is our duration and degree of attention. Duration, that means a minimal time or a time of period which is required to give attention on something. So that is your duration and degree of attention. So in that we have this 5 types of degree of attention. The first one is your span of attention. The second one is your duration of attention. The third one is your sustained attention. then we have shifting attention, and we have division of attention. One by one we'll see all this degree of attention. So the first one is the span of attention. The attention span, that means the maximum amount of material that can be attended at a one time of attention is called span of attention. So for an example, there should be the amount of material which can attend in a one single period of time. So that is called as your span of attention. The amount of material that can be attended in one period of attention is called span of attention. So for an example, there should be the adequate amount of material at the same time adequate amount of time period, so that I can concentrate on, or I can focus on, or I can attend that specific things or specific stimuli. So that is your span of attention. So two types of span of attention we have. The first one is your visual attention and the second one is your auditory attention. So for this visual attention, to achieve the attention, to achieve the visual attention, the time we need, that is 1/100 to 1/5 seconds are required to get a minimal visual attention and to memorize that what we have visualized. So that timing is required. At the same time, if we talk about the auditory attention, when there are some topics, when there are some statements which has been told in very repetitive and successions and repetition, in that if that statement has been given at that time, only 8 statements we will be able to memorize. At the same time, if that statements were told in rhythmatic manner, at that time more than 8 we will be able to memorize. So that is called as your auditory attention. So that is the span of attention, for how much, in what amount we need the minimum material, we have the maximum material to memorize it for a longer time of period. So that is called as your span of attention. So we have the visual and the auditory attention. After that, another we have, that is the duration of attention. That means the time period which is required to give to pay attention on something. So that is, let's see what is the duration of attention. It refers to how one can attend to an object without a break. For an example, I am focusing on something, any event or any situation or any object. If I am focusing, if I am giving my attention to any object, at that time, for how longer time of period without break I am able to attend that object actively, consciously. So that is called as our duration of attention. The time period which is required to focus on that particular object without the break. So that is your duration of attention. If we attend to a single simple object, for instance, a dot, it will remain in the focus of our consciousness for only a second at the most. That means when we are focusing on one single object, that is going to become a single dot for us. That object is going to become a single dot for us. And after some time of period, after some duration of the attention, that object will, that all the margins of that object will vanish away, and all that surrounding things or surrounding thoughts or all the things will come in our mind, in our consciousness at the same time. So that is the duration of attention. See, here it is written, then something in the margin will crowd it out, or memory of past event will intrude. That means when we are focusing on one single attention, on one single object, at that time, after some time, all other things, marginal things which is in surrounding over that objects, that will come in our mind, or whatever thoughts are there in our mind, so that all the that object will be covered by all that things. That means the specific duration is required to give attention. For an example, if if in classroom I am teaching, that means the student will be able to pay attention maximum for 45 minutes. After that, other thoughts will start coming into their minds and their focus will be lost. So that is called as your duration of attention. The next we have sustained attention. Sustained, that means the constant attention is maintained. So that is, let's see, to sustain attention is to concentrate one's activity continuously upon some object or happening or a problem. So that means when we want to sustain, when we continuously we want to give our attention to something, any activity, so that object or that activity should be done continuously. For an example, this girl is studying. So for an example, she is studying for the exam. So at that time, whatever activity she will do, she will remind her exam and her attention will lead to that exam and her focus will go for her study. So that is the sustained attention. Continuity we are maintaining in this sustained attention. After that, shifting attention. It is not possible to hold attention continuously with the same intensity for a longer duration. For an example, in starting lecture, you might have given the 100% your focus to listen me, but after some times your intensity will go lower and lower from that high intensity. So whenever we are focusing attention on something, after some time of period our attention is going to be shifted. So you can see in this image, this lady is focusing on her work, but after some time she has shifted her attention from this to other one. For an example, if we are doing study and in between we are giving our attention to our cell phone also when it rings. So that is your shifting attention. Then we have division of attention. So let's see what is this division of attention. Means to attend two or more tasks simultaneously. So you can see in word itself division, that means our focus or our attention we are dividing. That means at the same time the person, when he or she is doing multi activities. So you can see in this image, this man is doing so many activities at the same time. Going job, work on laptop, talking on cell phone or any other assignments he is doing. So that is the division of attention, dividing our attention on more than two things at the same time. So that is, so division of attention. For this, psychologist says we cannot attend to two things at a given time and there is no possibility of division of attention. That means if practically we talk, then the human being won't be able to give their attention on more than two items at the same time. For an example, right now if I am teaching, at the same time I cannot talk on the cell phone or I cannot write something or any other activities, I cannot do it. If I'll do another activity, then my attention will go from this teaching to somewhere else. So this division is not possible. So when we are doing this type of things, the one activity will be disturbed and our focus will shift to the another activities. So that is called as your division of attention. So here we have seen the duration and degree of attention. So this 5 duration and degree of attention we have completed. The span of attention, duration of attention, sustained attention, shifting attention and division of attention. After that, next topic we have, that is alteration in attention. That means changing or shifting our attention. That means in simple word, if we say the distraction of our attention, for getting withdrawing our attention from a particular thing. So that is called as your distraction. So let's see the meaning of this distraction. Distraction means any stimulus whose presence interferes with the process of attention or draw away attention from the object which we wish to attend. For an example, I wish to attend my call right now, but any event at the same time is simultaneously going over there where my attention is going at the same time simultaneously. So that is called as distraction. From one things or from one object or stimuli, we are shifting our attention to somewhere else. So that is called as distraction of attention. So here are some sources of distraction of attention, which is very common. Again, for distraction also we have the external factors outside the environment and the internal factors within the own's life. So that is your internal factor. So in external factor we have noise or music. For an example, one girl wished to study, but at the same time there is very loud noise or very loud music, then her attention will go towards that music or noise. After that, improper lighting. If we want to read, but that light source is not proper, so that same thing is going to happen, that our distraction will be there. Then uncomfortable seats. If our surrounding environment is not tidy, not enough resources we have, then what activity we want to do, on what stimuli we want to focus, or on what event we want to focus, we won't be able to pay attention over there. So that is your uncomfortable seats. Then unfavorable temperature, inadequate ventilation, defective methods of teaching, and defective voice of the teacher. At the same time, defective methods of teaching. If I am teaching right now, but at the same time I don't have the proper AV aids to teach you, if my PowerPoint presentation is defective, then you won't be able to pay attention over that. Defective voice of the teacher. That means if I am teaching and my voice is unpleasant to you, you won't be able to hear me. So these are some external factors which is going to disturb us or distract us from what we want to do. So that is our external factors. At the same time, the internal factors. So that is your emotional disturbances. If emotionally we are disturbed, then we won't be able to focus on something. For an example, right now I want to do study for my examination, but at the same time, if in my family member someone is sick, someone is chronically ill, I won't be able to focus my attention towards my studies. So that is my emotional disturbance. Ill health. If I am physically or mentally ill, I won't be able to focus on that particular thing. If I am getting boredom in doing that particular activity, at that time also I'll be distracted from my stimuli. At the same time, lack of motivation. If any of the activities I am doing in which I do not have any motives to do that activity. So if without motive, without any goals or without any aims, the individual is not going to do anything. So that is the lack of motivation. And the next and last one is your fatigue. If the person is very lethargic or fatigue he has, the tired, he is mentally or physically tired, then they won't be able to focus on anything. So these are some internal factors within own self of the individual, which is going to distract the individual. So that is your internal factors. Then we have the types of distraction. In distraction types, we have two types of types, that is your continuous distraction and your discontinuous distraction. Continuous distraction, that means continuously if there is a music in my area where I am reading, so that is called as my continuous distraction. So like that, distraction is continuous in nature. That means continuous music is there while I am reading something. So that is continuity. The sound of radio played continuously, the noise at the marketplace. For an example, I am living in the area where nearby there is a vegetable market. So obviously there will be too much noise and disturbance, but that is the continuous thing. So when we talk about this continuous distraction, we have individual is having the ability to adapt that continuous distraction. For an example, I am reading and continuously someone is playing radio or music over there. I'll be having the ability to adjust in that situation, and my mind won't be diverted to that music. My focus will be there in my reading activity only. At the same time, this discontinuous distraction is opposite to that. If I am reading and someone is playing this radio, after 5 minutes they are going to stop it. Again after 5 minutes they are going to start that radio again, that music again. Then again they will stop that. So if there is irregularity in this extra things or other stimuli at that time, we individual won't be able to adapt that situation, or they won't be able to adjust in that situation very quickly, shifting from one to another. So that is called as your discontinuous distraction. So it is irregular. For an example, the hearing of somebody's voice every now and then. For an example, I am reading and someone is calling me frequently, very frequently, at the interval of 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So I won't be able to adjust in the activities what I am doing. So that is called as our discontinuous distraction. It interferes with the work because of the impossibility of adjustment. So as I have explained you, impossibility of adjustment. Quickly and rapidly we won't be able to adjust in shifting situations. We need some time to adjust in any situation. So that is your discontinuous distraction. After the types of distraction, our next and last and very most important topic, that is your nursing implication of attention. That means how this attention will be helpful for us in our nursing profession. So that is, so it helps in bringing mental alertness and preparedness. So as we have seen, attention, that means our conscious concentration on any stimuli. So whenever we are talking about mental alertness and preparedness, that means all the times we have to focus on our client, we have to focus on our patient. So this attention will help us to quickly shift our attention to our patients when they are in need. So that's why the attention is important. The next helps the nurse to concentrate by focusing consciousness on one object at a time. So as we have seen, at a time only on one activity or on one stimuli we can focus. So this will help the nurse to do her activity, whether that is giving care to the patient or assessing the vital signs. She will be able to focus her attention totally on that activity. So that is. Then the next is helps for the better organization of the perceptual field for maximum clarity, because we are able to focus on one thing at a time, and that is going to give us a clear perception, what we want to perceive, what we want to what we are observing, what the sensations are there. At the same time, the interpretation of that sensation, for that it is going to helpful for us, because maximum capacity we are giving in the organization of that activity. So this is how this attention will be helpful. And next one, that is provides strength and ability to continue the task of cognitive functioning, because as we have seen, the attention is the cognitive task. That means the mental activities or mental functions are required in this attention and all the things. So that is going to give the nurse a strength and ability to continue the task. So to maintain the continuity, that is going to helpful for the nurse, so that they can give the effective care and continuous care to the client in the ward or in any hospitals. So that is the nursing implication of attention. So this was all the things about your attention, in which we have seen the definition of attention, that means concentrating consciously on any object at the same time, exclusion of the other objects. So that is your attention. The types of attention also we have seen, voluntary and involuntary attention. Then some factors we have seen, or methods of attention we have completed at that time. After that, duration of attention also we have seen. Then we have seen the distraction, how the individual will be distracted from one specific attentive thing to the another stimuli. So that is the distraction. And at last we have completed the nursing implication of attention, how this attention will be helpful for the nursing. So this all the things about the attention.